Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Imam Farki bin Muhammad Fendi and I am from the class KBA 2492B. In this video, I will be presenting on socialism and Marxism. First, I will be presenting on what is socialism and Marxism. For socialism, it is a political, social, and economic philosophy that encompassing on a range of economic social systems. The social systems are characterized under social ownership of the means of production, and it can be categorized into four things, which is the public ownership, collective ownership, cooperative ownership, and the social ownership of equity. Socialism has many types that have been branched out from its definition. But even so, all of the types cannot be defined under one simple definition. It of course can be differ based on three things, which are the role of the markets and planning for resources allocation, the structure of management in the organization, and lastly is the disagreement of socialists on whether the current government have the right system to bring proper change to the society. In socialism, there are two forms of socialist system, which is the non-market form and market form. For a non-market form, it will replace the factor markets and money with an integrated planning of economy and engineering, or technical criteria that are based on the calculation performed in kind, where it can be used to produce a different form of economic system that proceed based on different economic rules and dynamics as compared to capitalism system. While for the market form, it would cap the use of monetary prices, factor markets, and in a few instances even cap the profit motive from the capitalism system as opposed to the non-market form of socialism. The socialist politics had usually been both nationalist and internationalist that was organized by political parties that oppose party politics. Next is on Marxism. Marxism is a form of doctrine that was created by two people, which is Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. In Marxism, it had three related ideas in the doctrine, which were philosophical anthropology, the theory of history, and an economical and political program. There have been many socialists that have understood and used the Marxism doctrine. It is particularly used in the year 1914. Some Marxist schools of thought place emphasize only on certain aspects of classical Marxism while rejecting other aspects of it. There have been some schools of thought that had plans on combining the Marxian concepts with the non-Marxian concepts, and this plan would lead to a contradictory conclusion. And there is also another argument that states there is an existing movement that was leading towards recognition of historical and dialectical materialism as their fundamental concept. This was of course rejected by some post-Marxists that had claimed history was not determined by only the mode of production, but it was also determined by the consciousness and will. The two non-post-Marxists that had claimed such statement was Ernesto Laclau and Chantal Mouffe. Next, I will be presenting on the history of socialism. In the year 1789, the term socialism was created during the French Revolution by none other than Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. The poet also had written the Communist Manifesto in the year 1848. After that, during the last third of 19th century, there have been a social democratic parties that had risen in Europe that was mainly drawing from Marxism. There are also the first socialist. That is also the first socialist party that has been elected in the year 1899. The so-called Socialist Party was none other than the Australian Labour Party, and they were elected during the time they were forming their own government in the colony of Queensland for a week. Now moving to the first half of 20th century. During this time frame, the Soviet Union and the Third International Communist Party came to represent socialism in two terms, which is the Soviet model of economic development and the creation of centrally planned economies that was directed by a state that owns all the means of production. Other than that, the Labour Party's leader named Herbert Morrison in United Kingdom and Anurin Bhavan had got into an argument. The said argument was due to it being that Herbert Morrison said a statement that socialism is what the Labour administration accomplishes. This made Anurin Bhavan to disagree with the statement while claiming that socialism simply needed the mainstreams of economic activity to be brought under public direction through an economic plan and workers' democracy. Other than the argument, there are also some speculations that said the capitalism system had been abolished and it was replaced with mixed economy with partial nationalization and social welfare by the socialist government. Next is for the year of 1959 to 1975, which is during the time of the prolonged Vietnam War. During this time frame, the New Left Socialist movement was created in the year 1968. In this time, the decentralization group ownership in the form of cooperative or workers' councils was preferred by the anarcho-syndicalists and some factions of the New Left and also others. There are also other socialism movements that have also accepted the socialist causes, and those socialism movements also include feminism, progressivism, and also the environmentalism. During this time frame, the Venezuelan president advocated the 21st century socialism in Latin America. This advocation also contained the strategy of nationalizing national assets such as oil, as well as anti-imperialism stance and a description of himself as a Trotskyist who advocates permanent revolution. In the socialism and Marxism system, there are a lot of advantages that can be listed down. Some of those advantages is the reduction in poverty rate, the economy can become more efficient, and the access free market will come under regulation. Even though there is a lot of advantages that can be listed, there is also its own set of disadvantages. Some of those disadvantages is that the socialism system can create a higher tax burden to some individuals or sides or parties. The government might also fail while trying to regulate industries and own businesses, and the excessive labor market regulations that were created under the socialism system can cause lesser job opportunities to others. Now is on the conclusion. To put it simply, socialism and Marxism was created due to people being opposed to the capitalist system that they were facing. The creation of the socialism and Marxism had also caused some revolutions and created new economic system in some governments. The socialism economic system is a system that prioritizes more on the consumers and society instead of focusing more on a group of wealthy people or parties only. The economic system of socialism and Marxism have its own advantages when it is practiced and can give benefits to the government and society. But even so, it has its own disadvantages that can even cause downfall for the government when it is practiced without a proper care. Finally, the system could have worked in a government if it were to be mixed with a few other concepts from other systems. That is all from me. Thank you for watching my presentation.
Socialism. The word is thrown around in popular culture and political discourse as both a pejorative and a compliment. But how can the same system be behind both the Nazi Party and Finland's world-class education system? What exactly is socialism? Well, in its most simple form, socialism is when a population collectively owns and controls the means of production and distributes the end result proportionally. In practice, however, control is usually delegated to the state, while the distribution usually comes in the form of underlying social welfare to satisfy everyone's basic needs like housing, education, and healthcare. The end-all purpose is to guarantee a level playing field for all members in a society, thereby removing class distinctions based on ownership. For example, in the US's capitalist society, high-quality education is expensive, meaning that those who can afford it are generally given better opportunities. Those who can't are forced to compete at a material disadvantage. This leads to class inequality, not on the basis of talent or ability, but on generational wealth. By comparison, in countries like Finland, where high-quality education is free, everyone is given the same opportunity to succeed or fail, regardless of their financial status. If that sounds a bit idealistic, that's because it's supposed to. Early socialism was predicated on the idea that if we could eliminate classes and have true societal equality, it would be a utopia. In fact, earliest modern form of socialism was called utopian socialism. It's important to note that there are no 100% socialist countries, but rather different socioeconomic systems with socialist undertones. Even the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which literally has the word socialist in the name, has been called a far cry from real socialism. The same is true of Nordic countries, which employ socialist programs combined with a capitalist economy. But why are the Nordic countries doing so well, while Russia is still recovering? Well, like any political system, socialism has a countless number of variations. The two most dominant are social democracy, as practiced by Sweden and Bernie Sanders, and the Marxism-Leninism form of socialism used by the Soviet Union, China, and Cuba. A social democracy generally prioritizes improving quality of life through equal rights and opportunities, bolstered by a state-run welfare system and on top of a capitalist economy. On the other hand, Marxism-Leninism prioritizes the infallibility of its dictatorship government. The rationale is that any benefit to the state would also be a benefit for the people. However, in practice, this has meant that the ruling party can massively depreciate the population's standard of living for the good of the state. Although both strive for similar utopian socialist goals, the way they approach them is very different. These examples show that socialism, along with its logical extreme, communism, may be backed by rational theory, but requires rational practice to go along with it. Socialist democracies are the happiest countries in the world. Other socialist-leaning countries, like China and Cuba, suffer from terrible human rights abuses like modern slavery and censorship. Maybe the best takeaway is not to trust anyone using the word socialism to describe radically different political theories. Just because salad is in the name doesn't make fruit salad, potato salad, and Caesar salad the same thing.